at some of the reasons for political instability in Nigeria after independence. So, although Nigeria already gained independence, we're free from colonial rule, why were we still politically unstable? And that is what we are going to be looking at in the course of this class. We'll be looking at some of the reasons for the political instability in Nigeria after independence. The first, economic mismanagement. Politicians embarked on prestigious and economically unviable projects which did not benefit the citizens, and this was one of the reasons for political instability in Nigeria, because we mismanaged funds. Economic mismanagement. The politicians embarked on projects that, although they were prestigious, they were economically unviable projects. They did not have any benefit for the citizens. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria after independence was embezzlement and mismanagement. There were embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds by different regimes, right from the time of independence in 1960 down to the military taking over power, and down to the Second Republic and then the Third Republic. There were embezzlement and mismanagement of public funds. And one thing about embezzlement and mismanagement is that when funds that are supposed to be used for the progress of a nation, for building the nation, for establishing certain institutions in the nation that would help citizens to live a better life, when they are being embezzled, the result is that the funds that we are supposed to give education 5 billion naira in Nigeria, and then out of the 5 billion, 3 billion has already been embezzled, and we have only 2 million naira accorded towards the education of Nigeria. What we have is substandard schools, low-paid teachers who do not do their work well because they are low-paid, because they are not paid well. So we have these are some of the problems that embezzlement and mismanagement of public funds can bring up. So that embezzlement and mismanagement is also one of the causes of political instability in Nigeria after independence. We also have election irregularities. Election rigging and prosecution of public opponents remained the order of the day. So Nigeria had already gained independence. Now we vote our leaders in through election, and then we had election rigging. When election rigging takes place, the candidate of the people is not elected because the election has been rigged. People have dipped their hands into the results of these people. It has been manipulated. So we have people that are not the choices of the people being elected into governmental offices. So another reason for political instability in the country was election rigging and the persecution of public opponents, which remained the order of the day. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria after independence was the disregard for the Constitution. There was complete disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. So there was disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. Although we had a Constitution, people did not give regard to the Constitution, and the rule of law, which says that nobody is above the law, was equally not respected. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria is tribalism and nepotism. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria is tribalism and nepotism. There were tribalism and nepotism, particularly in the appointment of public officers and in the distribution of amenities. So one of the reasons for political instability was tribalism, when people are being appointed into public offices not on the basis of merit, not on the basis that they are able and capable of being in that office, but on the basis of you are from my tribe. I know you are my family member, you are my mother's, sister's, brother's, uncle, auntie's, husband's wife, things like that. Allow people that are not qualified to be appointed into office, and that was one of the reasons for political instabilities in Nigeria. Tribalism and nepotism in the appointment of public officers and in the distribution of amenities. So, for example, the person in power is Yoruba. Now, this person distributes more of the amenities to the Yoruba at the expense of the other minor and major ethnic groups. And that was also another reason for political instability in Nigeria. Tribalism and nepotism, even in the distribution of amenities in Nigeria. Another reason for political instability was the disagreement on revenue sharing. When we looked at the main characteristics of the Independence Constitution of 1960, we talked about the fact that the method for revenue allocation was already stipulated in the Independence Constitution. Although we already had the method for revenue allocation stipulated in the Independence Constitution, there was still disagreement on revenue sharing. There was always disagreement over the revenue allocation formula adopted and control of resources among the ethnic groups. So one major reason for political instability in Nigeria after independence was disagreement on revenue sharing. There have been disagreements on, the method of revenue formula to be adopted, the principle to be used to share the nation's resources. Right from the inception of federalism in Nigeria, we've always had disagreements on methods of revenue sharing. Even right from the pre-independence time, there had always been disagreements on methods of revenue, on methods to share the revenue of the country, and methods to control the resources that we have in Nigeria among the various regions and the ethnic groups. So this is also one of the major reasons for political instability in Nigeria: disagreements over revenue sharing and control of resources among the ethnic groups. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria is interference in the military. There was political interference in military affairs. So the politicians could now control military affairs, and this was also another reason for instability in Nigeria, because of the political interference in military affairs. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria was religious intolerance. There was widespread religious intolerance and violence which threatened national unity. So there was religious intolerance in the country. People were not tolerant of each other's religion. There was no respect for the religion of people. There was no respect for the fact that this is what I've chosen, this is the religion I've chosen to practice. There was no respect for the religions of people, and the religious intolerance and violence threatened national unity, and it was also one of the major factors for political instability in Nigeria. Also, we have bribery and corruption as one of the major reasons for political instability in Nigeria. Politicians engaged in large-scale bribery and corruption. So bribery and corruption was the order of the day after Nigeria gained independence. People embezzled public funds, they bribed their way through offices, and they were corrupt. So politicians engaged in large-scale bribery and corruption, and it was one of the reasons for political instability in Nigeria. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria was effects of the coup. Of the coups that we had in Nigeria. So after Nigeria gained independence in 1960, we had the first coup d'etat, which was done by General Agui Ironsi, which was undertaken by General Agui Ironsi. So the initial psychological impact of coups in Nigeria in African neighboring states also led to instability in Nigeria. So the psychological impact of the coups in African neighboring states also led to instability in Nigeria. Equally, the coups that we had in Nigeria also led to instability in Nigeria. It was always like this military government takes over, this military government counters with a coup, and then it takes over government, and the political impact of the coups even in Nigeria led to the instability of the country. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria is sit-tight leaders. Sit-tight leaders. The desire of political leaders to stay strong in power is also responsible for the instability that we have in Nigeria. The desire of political leaders to stay long in power. The political leaders don't want to leave power again. Once they get there, it's like, I want to be here forever. When I'm done, I want to pass it to my children. When my children are done, they will give it to their children's children. And then, the desire of political leaders to stay long in power is also another reason for political instability in Nigeria. They do not want to leave power. They want to stay there forever. They've turned it to a monarchy, a lifelong seat. Another reason for political instability in Nigeria is census figures. Figures from head counts were inflated by the component regions or states that make up the country. And the major reason for this inflation was for revenue allocation. So in situations whereby the country used population as a principle for revenue allocation, like the population of the country would determine how much resources would be given to the country the component regions or states in the country had the tendency to manipulate or inflate the results of their population census to make sure that their population is inflated than the normal amount it is, so that they can get more revenue allocation. So census figures was also one of the reasons for political instability in Nigeria. The fact that the states or regions, they inflated the results from the head count in order to get more revenue from the country, or for various reasons that are for their selfish interest, also led to political instability in Nigeria. Economic hardship. There was economic hardship caused by inflation and unemployment. So another reason for political instability in Nigeria was inflation and unemployment, which led to economic hardship for the citizens of Nigeria. Foreign interference. External influence from big nations and institutions also promoted instability in the country. So the influence that big nations and institutions had in Nigeria, foreign interference in the affairs of Nigeria, also promoted instability in Nigeria. And with this, we've come to the end of this class. In the course of this class, we looked at some of the reasons for political instability in Nigeria after independence. Although Nigeria has gained independence, why are we still politically unstable? And these were some of the things we looked at in the course of this class. And with this, we've come to the end of this class, and I'll see you at the next class.